Okay, we're live, so shut the door. I have to do all the setup on everything. I want to test it over here with my other computer. There you are. So there you are. There I am. It seems to be working. Live.drchuck.com. We'll flip over so we can hear ourselves.
Yes.
This almost works too easily because I'm like, it can't possibly be this easy.
Yeah.
We got one viewer and it's me. I'm gonna try to do some of these on at my own house.
Yeah.
We have 2 viewers. No, we have 2 viewers. We have someone that's not me. Someone that's not me as a viewer. It delays by about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 seconds.
7
Delays
seconds
like
delay.
7 seconds. Okay, so all the people who are waiting on live, I'm gonna thumbs up myself. I'm like, I think yay! Thumbs up myself. Gave myself a thumbs up. Let's see if the live flips over the right way. I bet Dave is the other viewer. Dave is our other viewer. Well, that's a good idea. You have something to write on in case of confusion.
Just in case.
4 viewers.
Woohoo!
So they're starting to come, and now the live guy is redirecting people, and now they're starting 5 viewers. Okay. Okay, so let me just turn the sound down on this guy so I can always come back and test. Hello, everybody. Welcome to our Coursera office hours. Some of you from the Capstone, we got questions and answers sitting up there. I will keep an eye on @drchuck.com. But usually it's best to just use the questions and answers in the Google Plus, and I'll learn better at how to deal with this. Notifications, there we go. Or if we need to build some other kind of thing. Okay. Oh, we got 21 viewers. Look, 21 viewers. Okay, let's make the questions look. Come on, questions be bigger. No.
That's not good, you on.
Okay. No.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, it should be draggable. That should be.
That should be draggable.
Okay, everybody. I'm Dr. Chuck.
I'm Stephanie Valiat.
And Stephanie is one of the liaisons here, course operation liaisons here at the, we should probably just do this. Right? So we can look at the camera rather than ourselves, even though we're fascinated about looking at ourselves. Stephanie is one of the course operation liaisons here at the University of Michigan. And so she helps. She's in the forums all the time. She helps a lot. And welcome to the Capstone. This is the whole idea of the Capstone is that we have more regular chances for interaction. And so this is, we're originating here from my messy office here at University of Michigan, Ann Arbor. And I'll try to do 2 a week. I'll try to move them around in time to hit different time zones. And so that's the idea. As we make some more progress, we'll start looking at some of the student presentations and talking about those as they come along. So, oh great, They're doing construction right outside my office, but hopefully that's not too annoying. Okay, viewing live from Costco's development lab. Costco, that would be the store, I'm thinking.
There's
So,
a T in there, so I think so.
oh, okay. Delete question. Yeah, I think I just delete the questions, and then I see hi there. I delete the questions, and then we can get to more questions. Okay, so I'll just start talking, and then the questions will arise. So one of the things that we wanted to do in this capstone was get it to the point where I stop talking and you start talking. And that's sort of a pedagogy that's a constructivist. I'll hide you, Stephanie, so you don't have to look at yourself or you stare at yourself too. So the whole idea is it's a constructivist pedagogy. And as a teacher, I know exactly what to do when I have PowerPoint and slides and a scribbling thing. I just do it, and you think you've gotten value or something from me. And constructivists, I have to trust you, right? I have to trust that you're going to want to do something, and the thing that you're going to do is awesome. But I think we're at the point now that we've been together a total of, 35 or 40 weeks. I just have to trust you. And if it doesn't work out, that people don't want to do any project, then they just do that. So thanks, V. Willingham, for the good picture and sound. I'm glad to hear that. We'll get that. So Ajit is asking, how to verify and test our topic for data collection for the capstone project. I'll verify it right now. It's verified. The bottom line is that we are not going to sit in judgment of your project. We're not going to say that it's too big or too small. The talent level of the people in this class and the experience level that they have coming in are going to be widely varied. And so we're going to trust that you're going to pick something. And people shouldn't feel bad if they pick something that is doable within their ability. Not everyone's going to have the same kind of network connectivity. If you do like the week 6 assignment or 4 and 6 assignment, you may, and you do the whole thing, you have to download like 700 megabytes of email data, and I'm not suggesting that you do that. And so we have to sort of tune the class to different people's capabilities. So pick your project, and I would say start. Don't assume that we're somehow going to not be pleased with it. We're going to be very pleased. It is more something that you can share with others. And so if you have a really sophisticated thing that you're going to do, and you're going to share that with others, then that's really wonderful. If you're going to have a really simple but still approachable thing, there's other people who are going to greatly benefit from that. So we're happy to see a wide range of things. Okay. Okay, so we have no questions, but we'll just keep on talking. I'll ask you in a sec what you think of the thing so far. So I'll ask you can prepare for that, but I just will rattle on to fill up space. So we're doing everything. It's a common thing in my courses to test technology that didn't exist before. The peer presentation software that we are using, and I will hope in the future office hours to start showing some of the student presentations and reacting to those student presentations. Right now we're just saying hello, which is mostly testing the software, and it's mostly working quite well. The one thing that has been asked that I change is that I make it so that when you do a peer graded assignment, and that's weeks 2, 4, or 6, that you can delete your own. And so I'm going to add a feature in the next day or so that makes it so that we don't have to go in and delete your thing. You can ask us to delete it, you can flag it and ask us to delete it, but so yeah, so, oh, hey, Danielle, you follow me on Twitter all the time. You're the one that catches me when I make a typographical error. So greatly appreciate that. Yeah, a CSV is totally good. It does not have to be web scraping. I mean, I just am obsessed with web scraping because a lot of things are that, and it's a good technique to know. But some data, interesting data from a CSV file or data that you download in a zip and unzip it and visualize it or analyze it, absolutely. Don't Don't feel like your project has to model all the things that I've shown you how to do. For me, it really was just a romp through various techniques. So yeah, just pull some data. Don't worry about, and if you don't even need a database, don't worry about that. Just read it, make sense of it, and think about when you're making your presentation about the challenges that you faced and how you solve them. That's here's a little sample code and that kind of thing. And so there's always going to be challenges when you analyze any data, and that's one of the weird things about data mining and data analytics and big data. And everyone's like, what is the class? What are the 3 classes I need for it? And the answer is you sort of can never stop learning when it comes to big data, because whatever data you face, it's got its own weird quirks. And you work for some giant corporation and they'll stick you in some corner and say, here's this data. We've been gathering it for 5 years and make sense of it. And it might be that you need to use Python. It might be use this, or you use some Redshift, or who knows what it is. And so you just have, the more skills you have, the better you are at big data. So Stephanie, what do you think of the class so far? How are you seeing it from your perspective?
I think it's really great. I wish that we had an opportunity to do a capstone like this within, when I was taking Python from you.
In I-502?
Yeah. It would have been a really interesting thing, although picking a project for me is always like a really daunting task because I never know. I pick too many things, or I'm interested in too many things. So I think this would have been a really interesting thing to do in your course here. So I like watching it to develop, to see what the students are doing and think, would I have been able to come up with that on my own?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure I would take the same risks in an on-campus class.
Oh yeah.
Especially with the time that's the only problem with on-campus class. We got exactly 15 weeks.
Right.
Here we do the same thing over 35 or 40 weeks, and we can take risks. And if we take a risk and it all goes bad, everybody still gets a certificate. Everyone's happy in the end. Versus on campus, when we do something that falls apart, then people get sort of grumpy because it matters. So yeah, that's one of the things I love about this class is I can just risk a lot more in this class. So B. Willingham says, I like the ability to upload a video presentation so we can do a little post-production on it instead of capture from the laptop camera, and instead of just capture. I agree with that. And I think we should probably encourage people to do that. I'll try to remember to say something about that. The key is some of the technical problems of getting things to stream if your network isn't the best. Just uploading a file is probably a lot safer. And it all depends on how good you are at doing those kinds of things. If that's something that's natural to you, you're using iMovie or something similar on Windows, or even something similar on Linux. It just means that by uploading a file rather than using the camera, there's a lot fewer things that can go wrong. Because if you're using the camera, you might have a bad version of Flash, or this, or your network might mess up, or your network might glitch at one point. Okay. So yeah, so making post-processing, yep, I like that. And by the way, I want to say shout out to our colleagues at Workwire in case they're watching now or in the recorded thing, Monty and Andrew and Aaron. I met that group about 1.5 years ago at a conference, and they were talking about this cool startup they had, and it was using all this HTML5 video. And I really like the idea of video that's not public. And I know lots of classes have asked you to do YouTube videos, and maybe you make them private, but I really like the notion that literally no one outside this class will ever see these videos, ever, ever, ever. They're not on YouTube, they're in Workwire, and so we need this closed system, and I really appreciate their willingness to kind of just let us have Workwire, and to some degree, you are the Workwire guinea pigs, right? I mean, Workwire has lots of customers already, but this is a great way in one place to have people from all over the world with all kinds of connections and all kinds of technology to beat on their product, and in a way that we're not going to be grumpy because it's all free. And especially once I let you reset things and re-record over and over and over again if something goes wrong, we can learn something from this. And the Workwire folks are as interested in this as they are because they're learning from it as well. And so for me, this whole thing is always about pedagogy. Okay, let's see. Delete that question. This is working really well. I can do this myself. I'm going to do it from my home on the weekend. So I think the next one will be like Saturday at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. I'll just do that from home. And this is not working too badly, although I'm sure I have a better network connection here than I do at home. Ajit, I've chosen browsing data of my Firefox browser to do Capstone project. I've extracted all the data such as browsing history, bookmarks, and Google search term. I'm working to add visualization to them. I want your concept on the concept. I love it. I would never thought of it. That's, again, the beauty of Constructive is I take all this risk and let you guys come up with great ideas. And then you do come up with great ideas, which makes me super happy. Who would have thought of that? And part of the fun of this is, you know, it's not going to be terabytes of data, but think about how you would visualize it. There's some cool stuff. You might look at the calendar capability of d3.js. It's got this little thing, and you can zoom into calendar box. Requires a lot of JavaScript. Hopefully, you know some JavaScript, but that's a perfect idea. And it also, I think what's nice about it is, and I think I say this in a couple of the lectures, part of the visualization can be to sort of stand up in front of a bunch of people and convince them of something. But another part of visualization is just, it's a reasonably good way for you to understand your own data. And it doesn't always have to be beautiful and gorgeous and whatever. It's a way to almost debug your data, to say, whoa, 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 what's that little dot doing over there? Why is that dot there? This data has some anomaly. No, there's anomalies all over the place. Wait a sec, it's not an anomaly, or whatever. And so sometimes the visualization can be somewhat crude, as long as it's something that communicates to you. So cool, I like the idea of your own data. I thought about taking all the log files from the autograder and giving them to you. I just feel that I could try to anonymize that data, but I would probably like screw that up, and then I'd be in trouble, and I'd be on the cover of the New York Times, and I don't want to do that. So I was like, I would love to give you your own browsing, your own activity data from the class, but I'm afraid that I wouldn't anonymize it well enough. So there you go. Brian Davison, is there going to be an advanced class that ties the back-end code, Mac, Windows, Linux desktop to the front end, like WX widgets or the web? Okay, so I think in that there's a couple of questions to ask, that are being asked. One is, are we going to come up with a way to write desktop applications in Python? And the answer to that in the short term is no. I'm not a big fan of writing desktop applications in Python. I love Python, but I don't love Python for everything. I think Python is a great first language and a great language to analyze data. And if it's your only language, then you think, oh, I got to use it to build web servers, and I got to use it to build desktop applications. Now, it's possible to do both of those things in Python. I just think it's less than ideal. And so, oh, yeah. So, in terms of web, a lot of people do Python, and I'm more of a PHP fan for the web, and so I don't have any plans right now for doing Python on the web either. So, okay. So Wasim, I see you're there. So Wasim, okay. Thanks for the course. I'm the guy from Syria. We met in The Hague last time we were there. I got the certificate from Coursera. Thanks a lot. My question was, when will PHP start on the course? So just a little backstory. I went to The Hague 2 weeks ago, and I had an office hours in The Hague, and Wasim and his brother showed up. They're refugees from Syria. And so I actually, that immediately, the next day, I went to the back, and I was talking to Daphne Kohler, the founder of Coursera. We were just sitting and talking, and I told her about you. And I said, he hasn't got an answer on his, I told her your story and the Syria thing and the fact that you needed the certificate for the job. And I said, and it's been like 4 days and he hasn't got an answer from from tech support from Coursera about the financial aid, and she's like, "What? What's his name? I'm going to go find out about that. That's completely wrong." So she had the same reaction that I did, like, "What?" And so, but I'm glad that it all worked out. I'm glad it was just a matter of time. Daphne did not know your name because I didn't remember it at the time, but I'm glad to reconnect with you because I wanted to make sure that you got it, so it just took you a little longer. So I'm really excited about that. Holy mackerel. These are moving really fast. Okay, there's Wasim. Get rid of that one. Okay. Okay. I see your question, Kao, I think you're from Russia, about code hidden.py with the 4 keys on the Twitter account. But I don't see the rest of your question. So where can we find, oh, minus, go away. That did not work well. Yeah, bad usability.
Yeah.
Where can we find interesting web-based databases? Can it be so it can be a productive project? Zixmarks 92. We've got a page, and I got that from Kevin Collins Thompson, a faculty member here that we use in our data mining class here. That is there's a page that's either in the first week or the second week. We'd have to get a link to it, but it's already in the class that is just link after link after link of crazy web databases. And so, oh, my camera's a little bit out of focus. Okay, let's go fix the camera a little bit out of focus. Oh no. How come this is not working the way I want it to work? Wow, it is badly out of focus. Let me go fix the camera out of focus. I thought I turned focus on auto. Oh, that focus is really bad. But I guess that's the best we get. Okay, so we got better focus. Thank you for the comment about focus. Now I have to go find the questions again. My whole thing is so messed up here. I do not know why this is.
Oh.
Something as weird has happened to my browser. What's this? Wow.
Can you just reset it and see what happens?
I'm afraid to reset it because we're in a browser and we'll lose our sendy thing.
All right.
Okay.
Better.
Better.
You said it's better.
Yeah, it is better. Okay. Okay, I see the second one. I can't figure out how to define it when you have an OAuth library that you import in PyForint code. So there should also, that OAuth library that's being imported should be a file that you download. It should be just OAuth.php. That's something that's just sitting there as OAuth.php. The thing you can do is grab all code.zip. There's a code.zip file that you can download and unzip all of them, and then you'll see it all. You define those variables in that hidden.py. If you're in the capstone, I've got a lecture that goes through all that. They are all taken directly from your, there's a little control panel inside of Twitter where you configure your Twitter API. And eventually there are 4 variables that you cut and paste out of the Twitter API into that file, and that's how you make it work. And so that's how you do it. You just go set that up inside the Twitter user interface, and then you copy and paste all those things out. And I've seen a bunch of tweets from people. Every once in a while, I will see a tweet from someone who has made it all work and says, "This is my first tweet from Python." Yeah. Thanks, Dr. Chuck. And I like that. So, okay, Alex, can I work after I've done this capstone as an intern in a company without any experience? Well, that's a pretty complex question, Alex. You know, it all depends on the company. I mean, usually in this world, one degree or one certificate is not enough to break through into the situation. What I found is that you can find yourself sort of on the verge of the thing that you want to do, and then the thing that gets you past that is something like a certificate or a degree. And so there's lots of stories where the certificate was like the last little piece that fell into place for somebody, but it wasn't the only thing. And so I would just say sort of keep trying, keep building, and don't give up. And eventually you'll be at that doorway where you'll finally have the things that you need. It's not like there's automatically one thing, but there's certainly lots of places in this world where Python is an important part of the job. B. Willingham. What component must be developed with Python? You indicated a JavaScript library and using JavaScript to parse some browser data. Is there a percentage of Python that must be used? I think I understand your answer, but I'd like clarification. Don't think of it that way, right? Don't think of it that way. It'd be nice if you use some Python, but if you're going to do sophisticated visualization, you will probably find that even if you write something like one of mine, you'll find that you might write 50% Python and 50% JavaScript, or you might write 25% Python and 75% JavaScript. The more sophisticated you make it and the more interactive you want your visualization to be. So all the visualizations that I did in the class were sort of like stolen off of d3.js, and all I did was came up with enough Python to write the exact data format that sample code did. But if then you want to make that visualization better, you're going to be in JavaScript at that point. So don't feel like there is some major amount of Python. I mean, this class is really called Programming for Everybody. And if the net result is you're already a sophisticated JavaScript programmer and you do a little Python and show us some cool JavaScript, we want to see that too. I mean, we all want to learn, because ultimately, this is, if what you're going to do and show in your project is a bunch of JavaScript, then I think that's useful for everybody, especially if there's a place for you to share that, so if people could figure that out, or if you know something about d3.js, or if you find a different visualization library or whatever. Consider every one of those things as a valuable and legitimate contribution to the course. Okay, so yes, you can predict me. I already answered that one. We already answered that one. We already answered that one. Holy mackerel. Yeah, so let's see. From Rajesh, seeking to crowdsource data sets from students in one place to seed ideas. We have a place for that. There is a wiki that we have a link to that anybody can edit. And so I'll make sure that dataset wiki, so there's a place where if you click on it, you will go to a link that everybody can edit. It's just a wiki, right? And so that would be a place to crowdsource. Cincy Stats is a rich source of data sets. City of Cincinnati Open. Could you, Rajesh, could you put that in the forum, and just let, if we don't have a forum that's already talking about good data sets, start a forum that's talking about good data sets and mention the Cincinnati Open Data, because that's exactly what we need, right? And that's not in the list that we came up with. And as a matter of fact, when we're done, if we crowdsource some of these data sets, I'm going to give them back to the faculty members here at University of Michigan that they can use in their on-campus data mining classes as well. So you're also asking the question about, also, Dr. Chuck, could you please include a Matplotlib exercise in one of the capstone exercises? Are you talking about like me writing some Matplotlib? Do you know what that is, Stephanie?
No, I don't.
Okay, so I don't know what Matplotlib is. So that would mean that that's up to you. This is a problem that I have with this class, and which I have in SI 502 as well on this campus. And that is, if I'm expert at anything, it's about how to teach beginning Python. But it doesn't mean that I'm expert at all things Python. I am not an expert at all things Python. And students come back to me a year later, and they're like, and I'm using this PyPy thing and this other thing with this NumPy and Lambda 2 and this other thing, and I'm having trouble. I'm getting this traceback error. What's going on here? And I'm like, I don't even understand a single word you just said. Just because I taught you Python a year ago does not mean that I've kept up with you as you spent a year learning more Python stuff. I mean, this is the downside of being a teacher, but that's okay. I'm so happy when my students 12 months later completely snow me on some topic that I have no idea what they're talking about. So Matplotlib. So if you make a Matplotlib, you can explain it to us. That would be great. That would be awesome. I'm not clear about the optional part of the capstone. Is the project where we use our own data set or just the presentation? Both. So sort of both, right? So the first optional thing, other than saying hello world in week 1, in week 3, the second optional thing is where you talk about a data set. So somebody might talk about Cincy data, for example, say like, oh, wow, here's a little 5-minute presentation on a thing called Cincy data. Here's the URL you can look at. It's got this and this and this, and this is JSON, and this is XML, and it's CSV. And these are some of the ideas that I have. And so that's the first optional presentation, is simply talking about data sets. It can be a data set that you came from our list. It can be a data set that you come up on your own and make a short presentation. And the idea there is that some people may watch your presentation and decide that your data set is the data set they want to work with. It doesn't have to be that you make a presentation about your data set, you analyze your data set, and then you visualize your data set. I'm expecting that there can be mixing from the moment of, here's some data sets, here's some presentations about data sets. Some people may join up with other people and want to help and want to do something and share code in the forums and do whatever. So don't think it's got to be my data set, my analysis, my visualization. It's okay if that happens, but it can be, here's my data set. Oh, wait a sec, I saw someone else's data set. I'm quitting on this data set. I'm switching to the other one, and away you go. And so it's really a way for us to learn from each other. And so unlike the first week Hello Worlds, I'm hoping that you can watch some of these presentations in week 3 and say, you know what, that person made a really good case for that data set. And I think it's interesting, and I want to try to work on that data set too. And then you can work together or separately or partly together or whatever. So so that's kind of the idea, is that it's a mixing, and you're not locked into anything. Just because you talked about a data set in week 2 does not mean you have to analyze that data set in week 3. And just because you analyze a data set in week 3 doesn't mean that you have to, in week 4 doesn't mean you have to visualize that. So we're willing to let you experience whatever this class will bring for you. See, Brian, I see that you changed your name from B. Davidson to Brian Davidson, so at least I can say Brian now. Have a good class. Have a good meeting. Now you are all going to try to stump me with questions that I have no idea what you're talking about, so I have to admit that I know. I would like to write some scripts for VISSSIM extensions. These apps are used for simulating interaction between road users. It's a bit complex than the patterns of code that I've done in my course. What else should I learn? Alex, I have no idea. I think that at some point it'd be great if you would make a short presentation about that in the optional thing, and see if other people in the class could help you, because that seems really fascinating. When you mean road users, do you mean like people driving cars? And does VISSSIM sim does a VISSSIM? I should Google this. Where's my Google? VISSSIM. Okay, Stephanie's going to Google that for us. I bet that's vehicle information systems simulation.
Oh, yeah, that makes sense.
I mean, that's what I'm guessing it means. We're going to find out from Stephanie what is going on here. But that would be, I see, that's the perfect thing, right? If you know enough, right, that you can tell people about VISSIM and where to get a little bit of data, then who knows what people will want to look at. Far more interesting than, you know, whatever it is that we've come up with. Oh, Matplotlib is see, you guys are all smarter than me. From Rajesh, Matplotlib is a package used for visualization. I'll try to use Matplotlib. Cool. Oh, I'm going to bet that what that does is makes prettier graphs than the kind of stuff that I've been doing that are more like suitable for publication graphs. VISSIM. When will the next office hours be? I'm in Singapore and it's 2 a.m. here. Let's see, 2 a.m. Singapore. So that means it's 12 hours away. Yeah, the problem with Singapore, so I will probably do, so Singapore 2 a.m., that would mean that, so if I did something in the evening at 9 p.m., that would be good for the general Asia area. And so I'll try to come up with some that are like, you know, middle of the day, like 1 o'clock in the afternoon US, sort of some 9 p.m. stuff. So that's kind of good for, that'll become morning in the Orient, Asia, and then sort of like 9 a.m. So my idea was like 9 a.m. sometimes Eastern, 9 p.m. Eastern, and then middle of the day Eastern would be my theory. So I'll just kind of bounce around through those things. That's what it is?
No, VIS stands for visual. So it's just a visual block diagram language for simulation of dynamic systems.
Oh, okay. Okay. It's not vehicles. I was hoping it was vehicles. With little cars driving around. That's what I was imagining. Like, oh, watch, these cars are crashing into one another. Oh, okay. For like electronics and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Interactive plotting.
Okay, so I'll try to make some times that are more effective for, and I'll just send email. I mean, this is no big deal. I can do this from home. I can do this from work. It's no big deal. And now we are out of incoming questions. Have you got thoughts? Nothing to share?
Nothing to share right now. So new still.
So new still, right. Let's see. What else? I already talked about pedagogy. Oh, I have another thing to talk about. So, I haven't got this figured out, the marketing stuff. The marketing stuff. So, we're going to send you all a form that is going to ask you for your mailing address. And when we get your mailing address, we're going to send you like a little postcard, and then at the end we're going to send you a printed, hand-signed certificate from the University of Michigan to you wherever on the planet you may happen to live. And this has actually been a dream of mine from back in 2012 when I first taught my very first Coursera course, and I said if people would send me their certificates, this is 2012 now, almost 4 years ago, they would send me their signed certificates, I would send them back and sign them. And I actually still have them. So some of you, I owe this is just part of my stack of certificates that you all sent me from all over the world in 2012. I took my very first internet history class, and they're sitting in my office so that I someday will sign them all and send them back, but I haven't done that in 4 years. So So this time, to avoid the disaster of making me do something and having me, instead of working on that, I'm writing code or something like that. Instead of doing that, we're going to have professionals who are going to send you all the stuff. And instead of you sending it to us, we're going to just get your addresses. And so we'll be sending you assigned certificates and some other stuff. I'm unable to use the Spider IDE to run code for spidering. Any ideas? Well, so I am not a fan. I'm not a fan of running anything in an IDE, right? And so I think an IDE is fine for writing code and developing it. The problem I always have with running things from within the IDE is that it never knows what directory you're in or what folder you're in. And so, and sometimes it actually makes a temporary folder, runs the code, and then wipes the temporary folder out. And so for the spider.py code, it's got to be in a folder because you're going to start it and then blow it up, start it and blow it up. The spider code is kind of like an infinite loop. I mean, it's going to run so long that it doesn't make sense to run it in the IDE. So I would tend to, Manasa, I would tend to try to dissuade you from doing that and just kind of do it the way I do it. Run it in the terminal, run it in the command line so you can blow it up with a Control-C or Control-Z so that you can start it and stop it and start it and stop it. And so it's very different than a lot of the other things that we've done. Because if you're doing like the Google thing where you're running gmain.py, literally if you're going to download all that data, it takes me about 3 to 5 days to download all that data. And so you got to start it and stop it. And running it in a debugger is going to be just kind of weird and funky and very complex. So I would just say for that one thing, if you're just writing the other stuff where it says read through this file and sum some things up, sure, you can run the IDE for that because that gives you good debugging and it's a good way to learn how to code and it's a good way to find your bugs quickly. But something like spider.py, it's like a kind of grown-up code. You might as well run that in the command line and just do that. So hope that helps. I'm very much into old school things. So here's a question that I'm debating. One of the things that I've been sort of waiting for this capstone to start. I'm not very good at multitasking, and that's why, for example, I haven't sent back all those things back there because I really need like a week to just do it, and then I can't do I can't do one per day. I just would need to do that. So so here's a question. So this summer I'm going to build another MOOC. I'm either going to take this current MOOC that we've done and completely redo it in Python 3, or I'm going to write a whole new MOOC on PHP and MySQL. And so, and I'll just assume I can only do one of those two things. What would you suggest that I do? Would you suggest that I do a brand new MOOC in PHP and MySQL and leave this class in Python 3? Or would you have me just spend all summer and rewrite this class in Python 3? So let's hear from you in the questions. Python 3 or PHP? Which would you have me do all summer? What would you have me do?
PHP.
You would? Mm-hmm. You took 664 last semester, right?
Yeah. Last semester.
Yeah.
It was a really good course. I learned a lot. So for me, I think that would be, because at least with the way that the Python course is now, you can get a basic understanding. Yeah. There's some differences between 2 and 3, but I would think that adding PHP and MySQL would be more beneficial.
So PHP MySQL course is completely done, except I don't have a textbook for it.
Oh.
And so what I'd probably be doing all summer is writing
a textbook.
Writing a textbook for it.
Gotcha.
Oh, there we go.
The people have spoken.
Oh, the people have spoken. Okay, so thank you for that. Interestingly, almost everybody says that, PHP and MySQL. The folks here on campus say PHP and MySQL. And the funny thing is I'm the only one who thinks Python 3, and that's because I'm an engineer, and to me it's a bug, and I gotta fix the bug in it, and the bug's Python 2.
Update, yeah.
Yeah, but okay. The recording, we will send, Alex, we'll send the recording. I'll send it out on the, actually, you can go to live.drchuck.com afterwards, and it'll forward you to the recording. Okay, and I will put something up in the class for all the recordings. Assuming the recording works, but everything seems like it's working. Okay, so there we go with Alex. Delete that question. Delete that question. Delete that question. So, Danielle, a great question. A great question. Let me read it here as I please. Everybody agrees with you, Stephanie. We actually have two related questions, one from Rui and one from Danielle. I'll start with Danielle. Some specializations have LinkedIn or likewise groups for people who have finished and wish to stay in contact or keep involved. Are you planning to do such a thing? So first off, I would love to do that, but I have yet to figure out how to make that work. So we have a Facebook group for the Internet history, and we have a Facebook group. And so what always happens to those is Facebook is so completely lame that it's really a bad way for people to actually talk to each other. I mean, and then what happens is, like, losers end up showing up and spamming it once it gets big enough. And so the Facebook group, I think, is sort of a disaster. And so I would be happy to promote anything. I mean, I'll tell you what comes to my mind, and Stephanie, you can, like, tell me I'm crazy. Like, how about a Slack?
Oh, that might make sense, actually.
So it's not crazy.
No, I don't think it's crazy.
Ah. So I think the thing about Slack is that Slack is less likely to be sort of spammed because it's sort of dorky.
Yeah, a very nerdy thing.
It's a very nerdy thing, and so people are like, "Oh, here's my car," or whatever. And so, but Danielle, you mentioned LinkedIn. I mean, is LinkedIn say better than Facebook? Because I find LinkedIn as spammy or more spammy than Facebook by the time it's all said and done. I would like to hear some suggestions on that. I am happy literally to promote anything that we come up with. We've tried the Facebook thing. I think it doesn't work very well. Something else wouldn't be a bad idea. Now here we're going to Rui. Would it be possible to get in touch with others like chat, email, Skype in order to discuss and share knowledge, ideas, and discuss code? It sounds a lot like Slack, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It sounds a lot like Slack. Could I make a Slack that we just drop everybody into pretty easily? Is there like a way to, do you have to invite people explicitly to Slack, or can you make a join URL?
I don't know enough about it, but we can look into it.
Yeah. Okay, write that one down. Slack, until we're sitting here, I hadn't thought of Slack. I keep thinking that such a thing would be a good idea, but and I would, again, you all are, Stephanie and I are not the experts in this situation. You guys are also the experts, and you have a sense of what might work, having been in other specializations. And what's likewise? I mean, I would, like I said, Danielle, I will be happy to promote anything that we think is a good idea. Slack, yeah, someone else likes Slack. Yeah, so we'll take a look at Slack.
It's a good idea. I think so.
If not, I'll just write an LTI tool that does Slack-like things. Put that on my list. Yeah, okay. So we got some Slack people here. Dharmesh is pro Slack. So Dharmesh, can Slack, do you know if Slack has a nice way of auto joining with a URL that you can share with a limited group, so we could easily sort of share the Slack. I mean, that one nice thing about Slack, if we could make it so it was invitation only, then you pretty much would go from a link inside the class, and then you would be in the Slack, which would keep spam much lower because it would only be people from the class. We could end up with a Slack for every single class. And I know students want a WhatsApp. WhatsApp. And I know you all are using WhatsApp. And the cool thing about Slack is if we made you a Slack, Slack would be a place that you could even find each other, and it would be better than, you know, we just basically declare that Slack was outside the bounds of the University of Michigan's concern. And if you wanted to, you know, find WhatsApp connections with each other, that would be fine. And again, I would love, I have no idea, I will know better after we've done this once. I would love to see people working on code together. I mean, you know, at some point there could be a group of people that are working on a project together on GitHub, right? Where there's code in GitHub that's being used for a project, and that would be like super, super exciting to me. And that'd be just, that would be really awesome. Danielle likes Slack as well. The machine learning Slack has an unofficial Slack. I'd like it to be an official Slack, except I will officially point to the unofficial Slack, right? So, yeah, Slack.
Yeah. That's a good idea.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Now I'm distracted because I want to go research Slack now. I'm going to go look to see if Slack has a way to join via URL, where you can invite via URL. Okay, so we've decided that I'm supposed to do PHP MySQL over the summer, which really means write a PHP MySQL book over the summer.
Yeah.
So here's a question. What topics would you like to see added to this Python course? Because when I rewrite the Python book, I'm going to add a chapter or two. Probably the biggest thing I've got to write when I go to Python 3 is how to deal with Unicode data, because the Unicode data is really quite tricky. It's not too tricky, but every time I try to read up on it, about presentations, is there some flexibility to propose a topic and then explore it? I'd love to use multi-threaded to perform multiple link to get and scrape and get HTML data. This would be nice to do with one or two other students. Yeah, I think that's perfectly great, and I would propose that. If you have something in your first presentation where you really could use some help, I would just characterize that in the presentation. And then don't hesitate to start a discussion forum topic about your project, right? And we'll just see. Which version of PHP? There's 5 and 7. You mean for my next class? Right now, PHP 5, but there is much to like about PHP 7. What's nice about PHP 5 versus PHP 7 versus PHP 5 is that when I teach PHP, there are some things I absolutely love about the language and some things that I kind of don't like about the language, but PHP 7 fixes the things that that I don't like, but I just am not yet sure that it's ubiquitous. But I think you make a good point, Mika, that maybe if I'm writing a book, I should write it about 7 and not 5, because by the time I get it all figured out, it'll be 5, and then I can remove a lot of my shameful code. And so, I mean, I adore PHP, but there are just some little quirks of PHP that just bother me to no end, and just, but PHP 7 fixes a lot of those. It's really interesting, because if you look at programming languages as they evolve in general, things like PHP 7 and Python 3, they're all stealing ideas from other languages. So PHP is a very old language, Java is an old language, Python's an old language. So the old languages were built, you know, 20 years ago when there was no web and There was no multi-layered service-oriented architectures, and there was none of this, none of that. And so they're all kind of like clunky. And then what happens is someone builds a new language that's more suitable for like a multi-layered service-oriented architecture. And that language has a feature that works in that. And people are like, oh, I can't use Python for that anymore. And so I have to go use this new fancy language that they invented last week because it has this model for computation that works better for my problem. And that works for a while. And for like a year or two, everyone's like flipping to Scala or Go or Ziba or whatever language that's they invented last week, right? Because not because the language semicolons or curly braces or white space, not because of that, but because it can do things that the older languages can't. So what the older languages like PHP and Python do is they watch that for a while. Go, oh, that's interesting. People apparently like that. And then what they do is they like go take the features from those other languages that are different and sneak them into Python 3 or sneak them into PHP. And then everyone will like, oh, wow. You mean I don't have to go learn a whole new language to use that new feature? Okay, I'll just use PHP again. And so slowly but surely, like it's like a Peloton in cycle racing, where someone goes out and sprints, and then slowly but surely the Peloton catches back up. Well, PHP and JavaScript and PHP, JavaScript, and Python are like the Peloton. They never let the sprinting languages get too far before they track them down and drag them. And the sprinting languages are also tired, and then they give up, and then they actually fall at the back. And so that's why all these old languages are crafty and they keep evolving themselves. And that's why I like PHP 7. But it's about 6 months too early for me to like go all in on PHP 7. So any idea for a PHP book like Python for Informatics? Well, I mean, I've been trying for my on-campus class, and if you know of a great PHP book, especially if a great free PHP book, I'm using a free PHP book from SUNY, the State University of New York, but it's insufficient. And so, exercises on this. Okay, I'll come back to that. So I haven't found a book. I mean, I'd love to have suggestions if there was a book. I don't really want to write a book, but I've not yet found one. And so if you look at Python for Informatics, what's good about it is that the book itself is not much more complex than the lectures. And so you can actually read the chapters and not get a headache while you read the chapters. And so I want a PHP book that's thorough enough to explain what's going on in a given topic, but not so thorough that gives you a headache. And so I want it so you can have like a chapter per week that's kind of, 8 to 10 pages that captures that. What I've learned from teaching on-campus classes, and this has to do with my, and you've taken both of my classes, so you know you can react to this. The value of a book, I think, is greatly underrated in that in my Python class, there is this book that follows really along, and you can have fully recorded lectures and everything, and yet when a student is stuck on a problem, the book is really the best place to go, because you can skim a book really fast, but you can't skim a lecture. And lecture might have it in there.
Right.
And the lecture is a great thing if you really want to waste 20 minutes and get a nice solid review and you just want to sit back and relax, that's good too. But the book, I think, is probably the thing that saves people from falling off the deep end. Mm-hmm. And so in my PHP class, when people fall off the deep end, they don't go back and watch the lectures again. They just don't. It might be the best thing for them. You watched the lectures. You did really well in the class. So yeah, I mean, and the lectures aren't that long, but a lot of people just are not willing. If they're stuck on a thing, they just want the answer to the thing they're stuck on. They don't want to invest 25 minutes to watch a lecture in case the thing they're stuck on isn't even in the lecture. Whereas in a book, you can spend 5 minutes, look through the book, go, oh yeah, that's the thing right there on this page, then work through it. And so all I want to do pretty much for the PHP book is go through the lectures and effectively write down narrative for each of the sample codes I cover in lecture and really make it very much following the lectures. And if you look at the Python book, you look at most of the examples, there's kind of a one-to-one correspondence. And the book is literally almost a narrative that is the lecture. It's almost a written down version of the lecture. So I find those books that are short and to the point the most useful books, and nobody seems to want to write those books. Everyone wants to write super thick books or super thin books, which means it's easy to write because I've already got it worked out because of the lectures. More material and exercises and list comprehensions would be nice. From Manasa. Yeah, I agree with that. So list comprehensions. I do give you one list comprehension, and I bet you like that one. The question I have with list comprehensions is when to introduce it. Because I think that there is a place, I don't know where it is. I think there's a moment when students are ready for list comprehensions. I just don't know when it is. Maybe I should do it. Well, I was going to do object-oriented. It's probably right around list comprehensions. I mean, it's close to where I would do object-oriented. And I think I'm planning on doing object-oriented after regular expressions. So maybe after regular expressions would be a great place to do list comprehensions. And I would preface the list comprehensions chapter, just like I do the regular expressions chapter, to say, you actually don't need to know this. But if you get it, you'll love it, which is exactly what I say about regular expressions. And some people I hate regular expressions. They seem stupid. And I think that's totally fair. And other people I love regular expressions. Yeah. You like them? Okay.
Not as much.
Which is okay.
But I understand how they work and how to do them. But I had a friend who struggled all through 502, but when we got to regular expressions, those totally made sense to her. Yeah. So.
And that would be like list comprehensions.
Yeah. Exactly.
That'd be I can't do loops, but I can do list comprehensions. They're kind of the same thing, but philosophically from a different place. So list comprehensions. So exercises. Yeah, see, I got to write more code. One of my dream things to do over the summer is to make it so that the Python auto grader could make it so that you could make your own exercise. So that instead of it being my exercises, there's just a little authoring thing that students can submit exercises, challenges.
Yeah.
And then other people can go attack those challenges and then succeed. And it wouldn't be that hard. That's a frustrating thing. It really wouldn't be that hard for me to write that. So more exercises. The key to more exercises is the way I want to achieve more exercises is by getting you to be able to write them. Because then if I had 100,000 people writing exercises, that'd be super cool. So, yeah. It's going to be a busy summer. I'd like to see more stuff on classes and objects. I love regular expressions too. Although they drive me nuts. I never get regular expressions right the first time. I gotta, yeah. So I'm talking about object-oriented programming, right? Oh, I see what you're saying. Oksana. I got that. I like your. Sorry, I gotta read what you're saying. I'm just thinking about what you're saying. I'd like to see more stuff on classes because I don't get them completely. And then from Mika, I heard object-oriented maybe do a course to learn not language but some programming techniques like object-oriented and functional programming. And actually, in a way, list comprehension is kind of like functional programming. But between those two suggestions, what it suggests is that maybe I need a 4 or 5 week course on object-oriented programming.
Yeah, I think it's a really good idea.
And then not require it.
Right. Yeah, as an optional.
Right, and then not require it. So here's these 4 Python classes. You got to go through all 4 of them. Here's a capstone. Oh, and off to the side is this little object-oriented programming thing. You don't have to do it if you don't want to. Right. But if you really want to groove on OO, you can groove on the OO. Because I talked for an hour on object-oriented, but basically what I don't do is that we don't ever do any clever techniques.
Right.
We don't actually come to the point of skill level to apply the technique as compared to here's some syntax and I don't want it to be total gibberish, but instead, no, we're going to actually do something. We're going to actually solve a real problem with object-oriented. A whole OO class. Like it. So here's the question now for Mika and Osana. One possibility would be to wait until we learn more languages to teach object-oriented, because it's so like I do teach object-oriented when I teach PHP again. I teach object-oriented again when I teach JavaScript. So I teach object-oriented in Python, I teach object-oriented in PHP, and I teach object-oriented in JavaScript, because the concepts are so universal across all those languages. Or actually, maybe that is the basis of the OO class. It's to look at OO concepts and then show them in a couple of different languages and then do something actually useful with them. Mm-hmm. Okay, more work, more work. Will there be a course to teach us how to control the browser or send requests? No, we need to know how to read the web. It'd be great to know how to go to a URL, log in, and download something with just a script. So, Lucas, so that's harder than it looks, right? So what we're doing in this class when we're doing like URL requests and doing GET requests is we're talking to URLs that either have no authentication, no session, no login. I guess the Twitter one, we sort of do that, but it's all set up to do that with a library to help us do that. The problem is if you're going to actually simulate everything the browser does, you got to do things like cookies and sessions and send the browser type and a whole bunch of other things. And it turns out that there are libraries that do that, but they're rather complex and intricate. And unless you're really solving a hard problem, they're actually pretty hard to use. The library that I use, and as a matter of fact, I do this as part of the auto grader for my PHP class, where I actually log into your website and do stuff after I've logged in, which means it's got sessions and cookies and all that stuff. And I use a thing called Guzzle, which is a fake browser that's written in PHP. Because it's not just doing the request response cycle at that point. You're doing the request response cycle and pretending doing everything. The stuff comes back and goes back and forth, and forms and posting forms and all that. And we've done none of that in this Python. It would be a lot of work to do that. Although the Guzzle thing, that's in PHP. The thing to look for there is like an HTTP unit testing framework. See if there's HTTP unit testing framework in Python. I've never done it in Python, but there's got to be a bunch of them there. Using Unicode. Claudia, I completely agree. I'm going to have to do at least a lecture, if not a whole course on it. Probably 2 lectures, maybe even a week and a half on using Unicode. It seems so more complex than it needs to be. But there's people that know it. There's people that are helping me rewrite the Python 3 textbook online, and they're really good at knowing when to call encode and decode. And I think there's a simple pattern. All the times that everyone describes Unicode, they start with a history of the world from the beginning of time, at the Big Bang, and then they work their way up to Unicode from the Big Bang. And I'm like, look, just tell me when to call encode and when to call decode and be done with it. So.
It's 2:35.
It is. I'll say we're out of time. Okay. So yeah, we should probably wrap up here. We'll do this more. I'll do one on the weekend. I will send an email out to everybody, and I want to thank Stephanie for joining us in the office today, and we'll see you next time. Cheers. I don't even know how to stop this thing. Oh, right there it is. Stop broadcast.